So we are so happy to see you all in here. So we are APS, which is Alpha Phi Sigma Honor Society. And we are e-board actually, which is, you know, that our advisors, Dr. Victor, Dr. Law, and Dr. Sharp. I'm Sadef, I'm a president. And
hi, I'm Michael, I'm the vice president.
I'm Ashley, I'm our treasurer.
APS Alpha Phi Sigma Honor Society is the biggest national organization in the United States. Basically, your GPA level needs to be at 3.5. Wow. A grad student like me, 3.9 as well. So other than you're gonna pay $75, but once you pay it, you don't need to pay anything again.
So a few things we have planned. First off, we have that fundraiser going on right now. So we're selling School of Criminal Justice merchandise. We've got shirts, hoodies, mugs, sweatpants. We're also going to be bringing more speakers throughout the semester. Beyond that, we're doing a movie night, and then we're also going to the conference in Chicago. It's the National Criminal Justice Conference, where a few of us are presenting our research.
I want to just highlight, if you become a member, you get this little cool member card, and there's a certificate and a pin that you can wear at graduation. Those that present at the conference also get a special, pin that you get to wear. Not very many people have it. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Victor, and I would like to thank Marty first of all for making arrangements for this. She does so much hard work and is an alumni, bachelor's and master's, yeah, and we're so lucky to have her. And I'm always so excited to see our alumni do great things in bringing Stan the man and his beautiful wife to come talk about their experiences and everything that they've gone through. Turn it over to Stan. Let's have a round of applause.
My name's Stan Stever. I live in Columbus right now. I'm married to Amy. My wife will be married 12 years this year. I'm 50, getting ready to turn 55 years old. Work in a nonprofit ministry that does reentry. So we help men and women transition out of incarceration. So we work with them for about a year inside, going through some CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy classes. It changes the mindset from a criminal thought process to a pro-social thought process. We also do a Celebrate Recovery, which is kind of a 12-step process. We have men that have retired come in from the outside that are willing to work with the men inside, and then as they transition to the outside, where most of the support is needed, we're there. There's no other reentry program in the nation like ours, that runs like ours. We're in 4 prisons right now. We're in ORW, which is Ohio Reformatory for Women, MCI, which is Marion Correctional Institution, PCI, which is Pickaway Correctional Institution, and Madison, which is MACI. We just started in Madison Correctional Institution. I've had the honor to start it up, to head it up. We have 15 men at that prison going through the program right now. And I just wanted to give you kind of a look at my life right now. So I'm going inside of a prison probably twice a week, spending one day I'm in there about 8 hours. Another day I'm in there about 2 or 3, working with the men in there. Outside I work with corporations and landlords and property managers, finding jobs and housing for those transitioning out of incarceration. I head up leadership and just the partnership part of this. It takes a community. You always hear it takes a village. It really does. Actually, we have 2 men getting out tomorrow. One has 43 years of incarceration in. He did some heinous stuff when he was younger and paid for it. And now he's coming out at 72 years old. Not being on the streets for 42 years. What year is that? What technology is right there? What society looked like 43 years ago? It's completely different. He's coming out and it's going to be a shock. And I just give you a little synopsis of that because I want to kind of tell you about myself now. Grew up just about 15 miles away from here in Sycamore, Ohio. Grew up on a farm. We did cows, we did hay, all of that. And I got bullied a lot as a kid. And I hated school. It was hard for me. I was the youngest of 8. My closest sibling was about 5 years away from me. So by the time I was a teenager, everybody was gone. So I was an only child all of a sudden. And not fitting in, bullying, it caused a lot of rage and a lot of anger in me. And every time I tried to share that, everybody would, say, suck it up. Sticks and stones, be a man, shake it off. It didn't work. At about 12 years old, I had a growth spurt. So I went from like 5'3" to the size I am right now at 12 years old. So I was getting bullied before that, name called, made fun of. I grew up on a farm, so sometimes I smelled like the farm. As a kid, and you don't want to be singled out like that. And I didn't want to be singled out like that. And it just, every day I went to school, literally from 3rd grade on, every day I was badgered. Every day I was made fun of. Every day I was laughed at by the whole class. Every day. This is a little child, 3rd grade. And I grew up in that. At the age of 13, I think I started using my first drugs and first alcohol. I hated myself. I didn't want to be me. So I wanted to change who I was. And changing who I was doing drugs. So my mind was altered and I didn't have to remember all that stuff that happens every day. At the age of 13 and a half, 14, I got it for criminal vandalism. I vandalized a high school. Got put on probation, house arrest for 3 months, got off that. At the age of 16, I was driving from Cary, Ohio to Sycamore, Ohio at 3 o'clock in the morning after drinking with me and one of my friends, after drinking 2/5 of Black Velvet, doing 120 miles an hour down the road, and got picked up for DUI. Got my license taken, paid a fine, got my license back in 6 months, and it just progressed. It progresses. At the age of 17, that rage and that anger I talked about exploded. In 1987, I took a life, and I've lived with that for the rest of my life. That's not something that you just do and you shake it off. I went to prison at the age of 17 years old. An adult prison, a man's prison in 1987. I went into prison not knowing anything. I grew up on a farm. It was a culture shock. There was every ethnicity, there was every personality, I grew up, our graduating class in high school was like 42 people. There was 2,400 people in this building, under this roof that I lived under. I came in at 17, not knowing anything, not being street smart, not knowing about games, not understanding how cruel people could really be. Within the first month, I had been in a fight every other day at least. My mom and dad's not there, my family's not there, my friends aren't there. I'm there alone. I know nobody. I know nothing. Prison has changed a lot over these years. A lot has changed. A lot of violence has been taken out because of cameras, because of other technology within the prison. They passed a federal law. It's the PREA law. It's a Prison Rape Elimination Act. But after it happened, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to be. I didn't know who I was, period. And I decided no one would ever hurt me again. And at the age of 18, I carried a knife around with me inside of a prison. Because you don't just make a knife out of steel. You use plexiglass, you use whatever you got. And please know, I grew up in a huge family with a bunch of support, with a bunch of love. And now I'm alone in this prison at 18 years old, carrying a knife down the hallways with me everywhere I went, because everything was stolen out of my locker box. Because I saw somebody wearing my brand new shoes that my mother and father sent me. I didn't know what else to do. See, there's not really counseling inside of a prison for all of what I just gave you. What do you do at 18? You learn how to survive. And that's what I did. I learned how to survive. I knew how to fight. That was easy. And the games inside of a prison are 1,000 times worse than the violence inside of a prison. And in 1991, after 4 years of hell, and a lot of fighting, and a lot of violence, and a lot of drugs, and a lot of alcohol, and a lot of all of that's inside of a prison. It's all there. I could pretty much get whatever I wanted. I could buy anything I wanted inside of a prison. I got addicted to heroin because the anger that I had in me, times it by 1,000 now. And times it by thinking everybody's out to get you, thinking everything that happens, everybody's against you. You trust no one. There's no one you can trust. Everybody let that happen. The COs, the administration, the other inmates, the guards, everybody let that happen. That was my mindset. And I went from being this loner to joining a gang, because man, it gets tired of being alone. You gotta have somebody. And my family was gone. My family was out of the picture now. They would come and visit me every once in a while, but they were scared to death of me now. Because I would come out with, man, just angry, just mad, pissed off, just looking for a fight. So they kind of stopped visiting me. They would come every once in a while for Christmas and stuff like that. In 1991, when I joined the gang, I just got in and nobody ever messed with them. I didn't have to defend them. They didn't have to defend themselves anymore. They were the attackers. They were the violent ones. They were the ones everybody was scared of. And that's what I wanted. And I was tired of getting screwed with. I was tired of getting beat up. I was tired of fighting. Most of all, I wanted to feel some kind of safety. Became very good at hating people, became very good at being violent towards people, became very good at leading those that wanted to do the exact same thing. I grew up in the ranks real quick because of my violence. Because everybody started being scared of me. Because I was willing to do whatever it took. That's what survival mode is. When you want to survive, you do whatever it takes. In 1994, I got a new tattoo. I became what they called the captain. I was the leader. I got a huge, 2 big red lightning bolts on my leg for my captain bars. And I was leading. I had 100 and some guys that were under me that were part of the gang. We ran the drug operation, we ran the gambling operation, the extortion, everything. Now I'm 25 years old now. There's probably 10 people younger than me in the people that I'm telling what to do, that I'm leading. When I think back at some of the things I did at that point, I call it a survival. I want you to hear this. Trauma not transformed is transferred. If you don't deal with that trauma in your life, and you don't transform it in some kind of way, it's going to be transferred to others through you. What you do, the violence, the abuse, whatever it may be. And that's what it was. So in 1996, I meet a guy. He comes to Marion, rides in from another institution. And I kind of hand the reins over to him because when I looked into his eyes, I could see volcanoes. I could see the anger, the respect that he got when he walked. Man, and that's who I wanted to be. That was my new role model. That was my new mentor. And everybody feared him. And he never had to lay a hand on anybody. That's what I wanted. In 1996, we had a race riot in Marion out on the recreation yard. There was about 600 people out there. It was madness, it was bricks, there was a couple people stabbed, there was a couple people cracked in the head with bricks and their skulls broke. A lot of men went to the hospital, a lot of men got locked up, a few went to court, got new charges, and I didn't get touched. I didn't get touched. I was in the middle of it. I was right smack in the middle of all 600 people that was out there, and I didn't get touched. 2 nights later, I shot up some heroin that was laced with fentanyl way back in the 90s. I OD'd. My cellie hit me with some salt water and punched me in the chest a bunch and brought me back to life in 1998. 1998, I get 2 different dirty urines, go to the hole, go to solitary confinement. Solitary became part of my home. You're all alone back there. You don't have to watch over your back all the time. You don't have to do any of that. So sometimes I would just go to solitary just to get a rest. In 1999, I went through a program called Kairos. Kairos is a 4-day Christian retreat. I went high. I heard there was cookies and I heard there was Kool-Aid. And you don't get that in prison. You don't get home-cooked cookies in prison. Home-baked cookies. That's the only reason I went. I went high knowing I was going to have the munchies and I was going to eat as much as I wanted and drink as much as I wanted and never go back. That was my plan. Went to leave. Someone asked me if I was going back and I'm like, nah, I'm okay. I get a phone call from the warden at 9 o'clock at night. Just so you know, inmates don't get phone calls from wardens while they're in the living area. And if they do, it's probably because you're getting ready to get a case. They're getting ready to lock you up, getting ready to do something. If you were seen on the phone back in that era, you were considered a snitch because no one talked on the phone inside. The officer came to me, told me I had a phone call, and I said, no, I don't. He said, yes, you do. He said, it's the warden. And I said, I don't care if it's a president of the United States. I'm not getting on that phone. And he said, you either do that or you go to the hole for disobedience of a direct order. A DDO is what they call it. Well, I had just got a shipment of drugs. I had just got a couple pints of whiskey in my cell. And I didn't want them shaking that down. If I go to the hole, they go in, grab all my stuff, and they find all my stuff. So I reluctantly get on the phone. She asked me, her name was Christine Money. She asked me why I wasn't going back to Kairos, and I didn't know how the warden would even care about me going to Kairos, let alone call and ask why I wasn't going back. She said she would take it as a personal favor if I would go back to Kairos. And I don't know about you, if you're incarcerated and the warden said you'll get a personal favor, I don't know who wouldn't do something for the warden. because that's the one that runs the spot. I ended up going back. Saturday night, we do a thing called a forgiveness talk. A guy by the name of Randy Rich went up and he spoke about his father being a deputy sheriff in Franklin County. He spoke about him pulling a guy over, the guy wrestling his gun away from him and shooting him execution style in the head and leaving him dead on the side of the road. This is a guy talking to a whole bunch of murderers, a whole bunch of different kinds of crimes. And he talked about how he forgave that person, how he forgave that person for taking his father from him, how he forgave that person for taking his son's grandfather from him, how he forgave that person for taking his mom's best friend from him. And that was an amazing thing for me because I didn't ever think I could be forgiven for what I did. Because of all the hate that I was living, I didn't know anything about any kind of forgiveness, let alone forgiven for doing what I did. It piqued my interest because carrying around that weight, it's too much. My mom came and visited me for the first time in a few years. She asked me, she said, "Stanley, when are you going to grow up?" I kind of looked at myself when she asked me that, "When are you going to grow up?" And I said, "Mom, I'm doing life in prison. I'm running one of the most notorious gangs in the world. I'm one of the most respected guys in prison." I said, "What more do you want me to do?" And she said, "Stanley, you're doing the exact same thing you were doing at 13. Rebelling against authority, fighting, doing drugs. What's different?" What's for me in 1999 when I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, it changed everything for me. Literally. I went from having this violent family to now having a family that wanted to hug me, and I was very awkward with that. In 2020, October 21st, they gave me a parole. I walked out the door after doing 400 months of incarceration. It's just over 33 years. I was a teenager, juvenile when I was incarcerated. Now I'm 51 years old. Man, I've never paid taxes. I've never had a job. I've never had a bank account. On top of all of that, now I'm carrying that trauma around with me. All of it. The fighting, the violence, the stuff that I did to people, the stuff that they did to me. And trauma's real. Trauma's not something it's not just an event in your life. Your body keeps score. Excellent book, scholarly book. It's called Your Body Keeps Score, and understanding my trauma was a huge part of who I needed to be. First night with my wife, we're laying in bed, go to sleep, and I wake up because I feel someone touch me, and no one had touched me in almost 34 years of incarceration. And I draw back and I say, "Get your effing hands off me." And I almost hit my wife because that trauma that happened in prison. I've taken a lot of different programming: victims awareness, anger management, thinking for a change, cage your rage. I mean, every program in there I had taken. I had facilitated reentry programs. I had all of that. But it didn't prepare me to deal with some of the stuff that I was getting ready to deal with because I didn't know. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Johari's window and the pain. You don't know what you don't know. And I didn't. I had never been in society as an adult. About a month after my release, I was hired on to Kindway. I was explaining that when I first started talking. And now you know where my passion, these men and women come from. I don't want any of them to have to go through what I went through. I don't want any of them to have to worry about, and where am I going to live when I get out? My family disowned me. Everybody's gone. Nationally, it's well over 50% recidivism rate, which after someone comes out of prison after 3 years, over 50% are returning back to prison. Within Ohio, it's a little better. It's about 32. It kind of fluctuates from like 30 to 36, but it's still one out of every 3 are returning back to prison. Kindway Embark has been around for 12 years. In our 12-year recidivism, we're less than 5%. Our 3-year recidivism is actually 0%. We'll have our 200th person come out to us next month, and every one of them have a place to live. Every one of them have a job. Every one of them have a victorious testimony to share of everything they've overcame. And every one of them want to speak about and the love that Kindway and Bart gave to them and the support that they got when they got out. It's my honor to be in the position that I have. I wake up every morning thinking, I feel kind of guilty I'm getting paid for doing what I do, because I love it. I love doing this stuff. And I want to go further, just like each one of you. In 1988, I bought my GED in prison. I'm actually working on my bachelor's degree in human resource management right now. I have a 3.8 grade GPA, so I mean, I think I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing accelerated classes, so I'm doing 5-week classes, working a full-time job, doing a full-time ministry. Man, I just want to see, people see more than just prison and incarceration. I want them to see more than just the person that just committed that heinous crime. Because he didn't wake up that morning saying, you know what, I'm going to become a murderer today. It's not how it happens. None of it. I just want society to see more. I want them to see me and all of them. I have brothers in there that are doing life without parole. That means they'll never come home. But yet they're serving and mentoring in there like they're coming home next week because they believe in it. They believe in people. And I know sometimes it's hard to see that out here. And it's usually impossible to see that inside of a prison. Whatever you search out, you'll find. I appreciate these opportunities. Miss Jerew, I've known her for quite a few years. I just shared a couple life-threatening things that happened.
Check it out. No.
Smile.
Sure, that's not